Hello, sunshine. I'm Osiris, like the Egyptian god. Thank you for joining me one more time for the Osiris show. I hope you're enjoying it. I know that you are. And I appreciate you for tuning in. I know that last week's episode was a long one, and I am so grateful for anybody who actually watched the whole thing. And I appreciate you so much. I was able to actually get a little vulnerable and just talk to you guys, and I really hope that that me just sharing a little bit of the multiple layers, like we're all onions here, so I gave you a layer of who I was, or a little snippet, and you know give you a little okay, it's a little traffic noise outside, but can control. But I really hope that whatever I do talk about really does resonate with you. You're learning something, you're getting a couple downloads. I'm a yapper, and I think my lips were getting a little dry. Anyways, I am so grateful for you to watch, and I really do hope that you guys are, learning and things gravitate. And I am forever grateful, and thank you for allowing me to just, get a little vulnerable and expose some of my insecurities that I struggle with. Like I said, we're all human, and today's episode might be a little controversial. I'm trying to not to ruffle no one's feathers, but we have to do better as humans. So literally today's episode at the Osiris show is called Mind Your Manners, because I see a decline in human kindness. I just remember the world back then just being just a more enjoyable place to live in, because people were just somehow nicer to each other. I believe as the years progress, people were just so unhappy living, and we cannot change a lot of our situations. We cannot really change the outcome of political climates. We cannot change from day to night our environment where we live. But what we could control and what we could change is our actual actions, the way we show up in the world, the way we speak to one another, the way we show empathy, compassion, and just overall kindness, the way we teach a lesson, the way we learn the lessons, the way we receive. Some people receive things and they are so ungrateful, they forget to say thank you. I don't know a lot of, I haven't traveled the world. I want to, but I am raised Latino in a Latino Mexican household. And where the way I was raised with a high etiquette of manners, where I have to respect, and respect is given. Now I'm in the place of my world where I'm gonna respect myself first, and I'm going to be kind to others. If I lose respect for you, it's not going to stop me from still being kind to you. I am probably just going to now set new boundaries. And if I just happen to dissociate and actually pull back from you, is because I am not going to lower my standards as an individual and as a human and get out of pocket. I rather behave very civilized, and I rather behave with kindness. And I always, like I'm gonna bring God in a lot of episodes, so like I really don't care if you do not believe in him, and I'm sorry that you don't, but you have some sort of religion, right? For those who do, whether you're Catholic, Christian, Jewish, even the Jehovah Witnesses out there, they do believe in some sort of afterlife, and they do believe in like heaven and hell. And there is going to be like a place of judgment towards the end of our lives, where I think a lot of our lives are going to be displayed upon us, and to see if you are able to walk up into heaven. And you do have the option to learn and grow. You could undo all of these mistakes. I mean, probably not like if you kill someone, like that is done, but if you did a couple of things that, like being mean, being a crappy dad, what say while you still have breath, you could still turn it around and just be a better individual. You do have the opportunity of redemption. And a lot of these things are really taught at home. So at home, I was always taught to respect my elders, respect women, also like I was introduced to, the way I should behave around children, the way I should conduct in public. I should, the way not to get uncivilized and, create a mockery of myself, because that's going to just like devalue and, just downgrade myself as a human and individual. And also, people who do witness you get out of character might just lose a sense of respect for you. So like, why would I do that, right? So, I like set the camera up and I just don't even know if I'm in frame. I mean, I clearly am. I just, let me see. I don't know. Also, like I shouldn't have even looked. You see, that was so rude. I totally apologize. Like I got too close to you. You got to see me very, very close. Hopefully you didn't see my pores. No, my skin is actually really good. I do take care of myself. But I don't know, like I'm not putting out this episode just because I work at I work in fashion, I do customer service, and yeah, like, but because I do that, I do see how people are rude, and they're so rude. And it's not just like, I used to just, I hate to become like prejudiced, Oh, back to how I was raised. I was raised to, be respectful to my elders, to always say please and thank you, to be polite when I ask a questions, to wait my turn to speak. When I was a child, I was like, knew not to get involved in conversations of adults unless I was welcomed or they spoke to me directly, or if I was asked if it was okay for me to, like insert myself. Also, I was raised to when I become an adult, to not be inappropriate around children, not to talk about sex around children, not to, like do any sort of like sexual like acts in public, to be just respectful. And then I was taught when I was like really little to do things where I was able to have manners. And the reason that these things were taught to me when I was young was because when you're young in Mexico, because I lived in Mexico for a while. I was actually like there, and I went to school for a couple of years. how people see you and the way you look in appearance in Mexico, it is so important. And like how they see you is how they treat you. If you don't have respect for yourself, they're not going to respect you. And Mexico tends to be a such like a like very like I, for lack of better words, like I want to say like kind of cliquey type of like country um where I guess like perception and the way you carry yourself it does matter a lot. So like yes, you could be kind to other people, but there probably would, you wouldn't want to end up being fortunate. You wouldn't want to, like, for example, when I was little, my mom used to, like, dress me up all clean. I would have like my hair all combed. I would wear my uniform, and then she will hate it when I come back and I'll be all dirty and be like, what happened to you? You couldn't conduct yourself. You couldn't, like, why did you get all crazy? Why did you play like a crazy person? Or why is your hair looking crazy? And then she'll be like, oh, you're gonna look like the kids who sell chiclets, or like te van a robar los robachicos, or all these little things just to like scare you to just like act accordingly. Because like also like if you act like that in school and you like get a little crazy, outside of like the way you're outside of like her supervision, where she could like it's going to be like other people are going to then like race you or teach you these lessons or whatever, when it's not even sometimes their place. So and it's all comes down to like, I think all of these things that I learned when I was much little, when I was a toddler, it's just cemented in my brain of who I am and the way I carry myself, in the way I carry myself with pride, to not like dilute myself into a lesser individual who doesn't carry themselves with respect and own respect for others and kindness for humans. And I remember, which is another thing why I'm 100% sober, and I did share with you my sobriety journey, but a reason why I do like enjoy like being away from alcohol and never drinking again is because I am now in more control of my actions. And I do recall when I used to drink, I used to sometimes be snappy. I used to say things that were out of pocket. And I've like, have regrets. I probably treated staff poorly and probably talked to people weird, or I was just impatient. And I just like remember that, like I have to give others grace, so grace is given back to me as well. And also like honey attracts bees, like all of these things, like so mind your manners. So I did do some research, because like this just didn't happen out of nowhere, like the loss of manners just didn't happen out of nowhere, and it's becoming a world epidemic. But I did research and I couldn't really like hone down on a lot of numbers and logistics and factors, because of the world is such a massive place. So I did the best that I could with the numbers in America. So because I live in America, so I did American numbers. Before I even give you my spiel on manners, I do want to give you some facts about where the state of the world is and why there is a lack of manners. And then, just like I said in the previous episode, and something that I do pride myself with and I will continue to do going forward, is that I am not just going to talk to you and give you a bunch of like blabber and nonsense. Like if there is a problem at hand, I am going to give you a solution. Because like, what would that be? What type of like that would be a disservice, and like, and if you're witnessing me, you're like, I'm here, you're feeling my presence, you're learning something. And today we're learning about manners. You might roll your eyes or whatever. You might think you have some, but I do encourage you to like stick around just so you can kind of like learn some numbers, learn some like what's going on, and also just like some life experiences that I've experienced. So like, for example, where I work, I try not to be prejudiced because I used to believe that it was just a group of individuals, like certain cultures that were just rude. And I just used to just be like, oh my God, I could never not do that. But, I used to then be like, I think it's a lot of us, and it's mainly like, I'm not going to give people, I'm not gonna like say what these cultures of humans are, because that is just wrong. But there are entitled elites out there, and a lot of them do not see the world through like our lenses. They have clouded lenses where their only pursuit in life is, not necessarily, things that are going to better the world is financial success, and it's not things that feed the soul. It is okay to have money, but you're negating your growth as a human, and your growth that, you're preventing your soul from, having like your, then ego death, and also like going through like certain human lessons that everyone needs to have. You have to learn empathy, you have to learn gratitude, you have to learn kindness. There are so many human attributes that a lot of the elitists do not possess, and then some do. So do not just think that I'm talking to all of you as a whole, but the ones who do have those human, beautiful qualities of a good human being, you could actually be an observer and see how your peers do not possess these things, and they are, they're the way they see the world is through different lenses. And abundance does come in different types of packages. It's not just always money. And you cannot be walking in the path of gratitude if you're not kind. And you are not going to be kind if you don't have any manners. So I am always appalled when I'm at work and I say hi to somebody, and I am someone who is very loud, as you could see. Like, I don't even know why sometimes I'm wearing this little microphone, but I'm doing it for like better audio quality. Is it even on? Yeah, it's on. But like sometimes I'm just like, I think the phone microphone works perfectly fine. It's a new iPhone, but needless to say, I still use the mic, but I am very loud, and mind you, they could hear me. Sometimes I used to give them excuses, give them grace, but I'm at the point where like, I kind of don't care. Sometimes I used to be like, hello, I think I said hi, or like, oh, I'm so sorry that you not hear me. Or at points, I will even go up to them and I'll be like, talking to them, and I'm still like constantly like getting ignored, and I'm just like, okay, well, clearly they don't want to get my service, and I don't have to really help them. Like I don't, so, and then I don't, so I walk away. And then I literally think about like Pedro Pascal, and I know I talked about him in the Fantastic Four movie in the previous episode. Oh my God, I'm wearing Fantastic Four blue. It's not even on purpose, but he's doing his press runs and whatever, and sadly, like, people are canceling him. People are canceling him for the wrong reasons, for him being like too overly exposed. And I just touched this a little bit on last episode, but I didn't really give you my spiel. I just said that it took him so long to get there. So why wouldn't you have that success, and be in multiple projects? Like, it's almost like if you're a musician, why wouldn't you have like multiple number ones in the radio, like your whole career? Sometimes you want to be in the radio. Sometimes success is different. Like, not everyone could be like Lana Del Rey, where she could fill out arenas and has like 375 million listeners on Spotify, but never has her songs playing on the radio. So, but when you do, like, that is like the success you want to like go for. So to point out that people are complaining that he's in everything right now, and I'm like, everything he's in, no one is watching but the mainstream movie, the action movie, Fantastic Four. And that was like, the thing is like all his projects were filmed in different times. It just so happened to come out at the same time. And no one decided to like release it for another time, but also like most people don't know how Hollywood works. Like you have to go and like get your time for that movie, and sometimes some people get discouraged to drop their movie in certain months because they see another movie coming out at that same time. And sometimes also it's by studio. Like a lot of studios want to have their movies spread out through the year, not have them all come out in one time. So all the movies that Pedro's currently on, they're from all different studios. One is Disney, one is A24, and the other one is like, I don't even know. I dare to say Universal, the one with Dakota and Chris Evans. They're different studios, right? But they all decided to be summer films. Now, Fantastic Four, mind you, could have been like a fall movie. It definitely could not have been but when in the fall, October in the fall. But also like they have other projects, so like I don't think like they've dropped like a lot. Like they have a time scheme that they have to follow for the Fantastic Four. But they dropped it so close to Superman, so like, but they always have to compete with DC. So that's its own little situation, like the Disney and Warner Brothers rivalry. But doesn't negate the fact that he has been, in everything, but he did minimize his role. His character got killed off in that show. I couldn't care. I couldn't watch it because of the girl. And once Pedro like died, I was like, well, I'm not gonna watch it because I don't like this girl. So like I stopped watching it because of the girl. But like, kudos to the girl for like having a job. But like I was not relating to you, or your level of acting was not for my taste. But also like I myself am not an actor, and I could totally aspire, and it's like totally desire to one day be one. But it's it's a very like. It's a very strange dream of mine, and who knows if it will ever manifest, But I have thought about taking acting classes. I've taken improv before, so I could always, think on the spot, and I think that also, probably makes me a good salesperson. So, thank you to my boss, because I'm, my improv classes really, make me, think about everything, and I could talk about anything with any customer, and I, also, I so knowledgeable, and I do a lot of research, so, I could really talk about anything with anybody. And I'm just a human person, but some people are just freaking rude. Whoa, okay, so anyways, back to Pedro. These two other movies, if you look at the box office, no one is watching them. So what is the problem? One, who wants to watch a movie about two political parties running for each other during COVID in the middle of in the middle of the nowhere? And it's a weird little movie that is clearly gonna go to streaming, but who wants to see that? And the other one is a dating movie that nobody really paid attention to, and people paid attention more to the press tour and the press run than the actual movie itself. So what is the problem here? And now because of that, his role is getting minimized, and the second installment of Fantastic, the Avengers, because because he got overly saturated or whatever, he's everywhere. But I think it's to me, seeing The Rock everywhere was annoying. And to know he's going to be in, we're going to see him over, Jason Momoa and, Moana. I'm ugh, why? But that's just me, because The Rock is everywhere. And sometimes I just don't think he's authentic, but that's just me. But also, people like him, but then it's almost then what's the problem with Pedro? And I think it's also I'm just thinking oh, is it because, he's his it could be the trans support. I don't know. That's just a food for thought. But I'm give it a break. If you have something that you're good at, and you have a project that you're good at, or you have a product that you have, you want it to be able to have that success to be accessible everywhere. Let's say you have, you created a seltzer, or you have you created a product like a candy, or you have literally let's just take it to clothing, right? You made a shirt. It's a beautiful shirt, and you decided to make a random collection of different lengths of sleeves, different colorways, different fabrics, and you have a little Instagram shop. Then it started growing into a website. I think, wouldn't you want a dream to have a big, like, mega store to buy your product to be sold in their stores? Like, wouldn't you want, depending on the caliber of your product, wouldn't you want it to be, for example, like if it's like a random t-shirt, wouldn't you want your t-shirts to be everywhere sold at Target? If you're like, like a fine design and your shirts are made out of like a nice silk, or they just took a lot of craftsmanship, why wouldn't you want them at Nordstrom or Bloomingdale's? Why wouldn't you want to make a deal there, especially if you do not have your own standalone store, right? Like, these are dreams that people have, that we should not like crap on their success, because like in Hollywood, like, these careers are not forever. So like, these are his 5 minutes. Like, he should totally milk them if he could. So regardless, people are going to say what they want to say, and people are going to be rude. But back to the topic at hand, remind your manners. Like, we just got so off topic, and I try not to do that, because I think that's like a reason why the other episode was so long. But like, I love you guys for like tuning in and listening. But I used to give people I still do, because at the end of the day, it's like the ones not getting into heaven because of their actions are them, not me. So, and I'm not trying to like have their negative energy ruined my beautiful positive aura and energy that I already possess. Like, they're not going to dim the inner light that I already have within me, nor steal my energy. So I try to, give them a little like inspiration that you could be kind. And then sometimes like people are just who they are. Sometimes like I do meet people and I see them when they walk in, and I'm just like, I get a little frustrated, because I think I'm just so like I think I'm like an energy empath, where I could just feel the energy before our interaction, and I could sometimes like see the outcome, or I get like kind of like spidey senses where like my something is telling me to like kind of like stay my distance, and sometimes I'm right. Like, it just like sometimes like my coworkers end up interacting with them, and it just turns out these people are crazy, and I'm just like, I'm so happy I trusted my gut feeling, my intuition, that this is an unhinged individual. And they also like, they lack a couple manners. But some people are just like, I thought, like, for example, there were a group of individuals that walked in. I'm not going to give their ethnicities, but they were not American, first of all. So mean, so entitled, did not say hi. And, they didn't answer any of my questions. And, some people just say, oh, I'm just looking, but I'm like, sometimes I'm not even saying like nothing regarding to whatever I'm selling to you, because it's not even, to me, it's not about that. Like, to me, I'm just like what sometimes makes me, I feel like a good seller, or also makes me stress less about my sales goals, is that I could not control other people's actions. I could only control my own. So like, what makes me think that I could control, or like, or I'm not gonna make you spend your money. Like, I could just persuade you. I could romanticize our product and storytell to you and tell you like how it's good or how it's bad, and give you a good perspective. But outside of that, like, I'm not going to be disingenuous and get all these returns. So I'll rather just, sell you with some really good assessment and, some great assistance, and, be truthful to what I'm selling to you, because it's fashion, and I think I want you to look good and feel good when you're wearing these things. So I am very mindful that like, I cannot control how you spend your money, and nor do I want to. It's your money. You do what you want with it. So with that mindset, like, I try not to stress about it, and I never lead with like, oh my God, like, let me sell you something. So I always ask people like, how's your day going? What you got going for this weekend? Or like, oh, how's it going? You look so cute today. And I get met with nothing but silence. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay. Or sometimes I'll be like, people walk in, for example, like giving you an example, like, oh, they're holding like a cup from an AMC movie. And I'm like, oh, what movie did you see? Because I love movies and I always want to hear people's like feedback on what did they see, what did they think. And like sometimes I have a little knowledge on like things because I like watching movies. I love everything about them. So I'm like, what was it? Tell me. And like their favorite parts, what they hated or what they loved or what they recommended. Should I go watch it? So like, and then sometimes I get met with silence even then, and it's a very specific questions. And then sometimes when it's not silence, it's still very like, I'm just looking and I'm like, okay, but I just asked you what movie you saw. Like, but it's still kind of rude, right? But, and then I just like, it's not just me experiencing it at the store, but it's also just me experiencing it at, witnessing it when I'm on dates with guys and I see the way some people are interacting with the service. They're so rude, or the way they treat their grandparents, or and I see that like when I'm like, in the park or I'm in public, or I see children, running wild, and and it's not like they're in a theme park, or it's not like they are actually in the park or in somewhere where it's like the right social setting for them to do that. They're like acting extremely uncivilized, and they're for example, I was at Gelson's, and then there was like a tower of like product that someone had set up, and it takes them like minutes, hours, who knows. And like someone, this kid knocked it down, and instead of the parents rectifying their behavior, they thought it was funny and they laughed. And I'm not gonna also hone in on who these individuals were, because also like they were not American, they were not Latino, and they were not Black. But I sometimes see bad behavior from all ethnicities. So not all of us are, not everyone is exempt from like being kind and being better human beings, because we are all doing a horrible job. And it really all comes down to what I was saying in the beginning about having these things being indoctrinated when you are very young, when you're a child. Because when you are a child, you have a sponge-like brain, and these things just stick to you, and it becomes who you are. And why wouldn't you have manners? Like, imagine you are a parent and you have either a girl or a boy, and you're putting them out in the world. I think you will sleep better at night if you know that people out there have respect, like men have respect for women, and women have respect for themselves, and also like men. So for example, like I think if you are a father or a mother of a daughter, you would be, sleeping better at night if you know that your daughter is being taken care of, by, someone she's dating, because the guy has great manners and you met their parents. They also seem like they're like, they have a good hair on their shoulders, they're respectful, they're civilized, whether they have faith or not, it doesn't matter. But you could see that the guy, you could see the way they interact with themselves as a family. You see that the guy is opening the door for the girl, he's saying please and thank you. All of these things do matter, and they have a place on a society as a whole, because it just creates a sort of environment that women and men should strive to be for, to create a family unity. So all of these things are also taught as if you are a parent of boys, you should be cautious of how you when you are with a girl, you have to be chivalrous. You have to treat her kindness, give her a compliment, especially when you're trying to be in the presence of your romanticizing her in the beginning, and you being chivalrous in the beginning of dating. You want to buy her flowers, you want to open the door, you want to pick her up, you want to pay for the first date. These are things that you want to do, not because you saw in a movie, but because these are just well manners, and you are a well-raised boy. And you have some fine parents at home who just taught you better than that. And they taught you better than oh my God, you respect women, because that is someone's daughter out there. That is someone's daughter, and that daughter has parents, and they're going to just go crazy and die if you disrespect their daughter, or she is, like somehow, like, assaulted, or something bad happens to her because of the action of men. So all of these things are correlated in how we present ourselves in the world, when it includes to even like the way we behave towards staff, our children, our parents, and even the way we date. So now when it comes to manners, I wrote down some facts. So these are some facts about manners, and this is numbers that I gathered as of 2025. So I couldn't really gather everything from the world, because a lot of countries in the world do not do the census. America does census, but not everyone does census. So I couldn't really gather a lot of information worldwide. So this is just pertaining to America. But, it's just like one step closer, because if we know there's a problem, we know that there is a solution, but we have to be aware that there is a problem first. So as of 2025, the U.S. Census Bureau estimates that there are 9.8 million parents with children. 25 of those children live in single parent households. 25%, I meant to say. And according to the NIUSSP, the majority of single parent households are being headed by mothers. So there is a lot of single moms raising their children. So there are 9.8 million parents with children, and 25% of those are actually single. Now, as of 2025, there are over 23 million children living with single parents households. 47% are Black, 25% are Hispanic, 8% are Asian, 31% are other. So this is like a little paragraph that I wrote with some of the information that I found. So in today's modern society, the lack of manners can come from different factors. So the different factors correlate from a change in parenting style. There's also a new generation raising them. So now these are the parents being raised by millennials, no longer the ones before, but even then, the decline in emphasis in traditional etiquette, and this is true to the core. There is less etiquette going around, point blank, period. That is a root of the problem. There's no more etiquette. And it's just like things that we no longer care about. We don't. And it's not about etiquette, like you are going to the Queen's luncheon, because when would you go to the Queen's luncheon? You don't have to learn about the forks and, going outward, inward. You do not have to do that unless you're marrying into the elites. But if you're not that, and also when you do become an elitist, and, you a lot of us could be, manifesting financial success. And when it does come to you, these are things you could teach and you could learn. Actually, you could learn better etiquette, because you wouldn't be uncivilized with the echelons and these high, status places. But regardless, it's all about acting civilized. Some people, you always hear the, oh, rapper so-and-so, rapper this, they acted crazy, or they got arrested at this 5-star restaurant because they couldn't behave themselves, or they couldn't hold their liquor, and they got they got violent. These are actions that you could control and you could learn when you you reach a level of success. But when it comes to etiquette, it's just, greetings, please and thank yous, small little minor things, and I'll go into that later. So with the decrease in discipline and spending quality time with children, all the factors contribute to a lack of manners. In addition, there's a huge decline in the use of polite phrases in day-to-day casual communication. And that is what I was talking about, in us not having the right etiquette. So there are no more polite phrases. So when I do, for example, greet people or, the potential customers walking into the store and they do not like give me a polite, phrase back of like, or at least an acknowledgement that I am a human and they heard me, it's rude and it's just an account of like lack of manners. And and sometimes I do like I obviously don't let this bother me because it like these individuals do not pay my bills and they don't bring an amount of joy to me, and the actual valuable customers that I do have wouldn't treat me that way, obviously. But I do give a lot of people a lot of grace because I just do not know what they're going through. Like, for example, my first episode here, I did share with you about the woman that I encountered that opened up to me about her having cancer. So, someone with that type of bad news sitting on her shoulders, if she were to walk in and she said nothing to me, I would still give her like, grace, and I would still smile at her and just let her know that I'm here just in case, and then I think like someone like her is probably just sad, but she wouldn't like just brush me off like I'm nobody, or like if I'm like the help, because who am I and who are you? Like, even like, like celebrity culture, like, it's almost just like, to me, celebrity culture gets to be a little toxic when they reach the level of fame. But I always said to myself, like, I don't know if it's for me, but when and if I reach fame and I become famous, or like, you always find us like, oh my God, you want to be famous. And I said like, well, if I do, I wouldn't be a crappy person. I would always stop for a photo for my fans, because like, who am I? Like, these people, like they're praised and they love you, and it's just like good manners to acknowledge another human being. Sometimes like, like some people overstep boundaries, but that's just like different, but that's like the lifestyle that you chose to have. But some people, they're not celebrities and they still, or they're not even like, royalty, but yet again, the most royals are the most kindest people. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of them have like poise, etiquette. They want to have a good rapport to their people, because that's the whole point of them having their status, their title. So it all comes down to, and I wrote down some things about like a lack of family dynamics. So because there are a lot of like single moms at home, there is going to be a big miscommunication of, oh, like I could do this at dad's house, I could do this at mom's house, and like it just becomes chaotic with like who's raising our children, or how are they being raised. And then in addition to that, for those who do not come from like a broken household, for example, it's so hard in this economy to not have both parents working. And also there is the feminist movement that, we applaud all women to have, aspire for more, but now with a lot of the women no longer, trying to be at home raising their own children, they want to be in the work field. They, like obviously that comes in through a new, different generation, when it's kind of ties down to, there's a new generation of people raising children now. So, back then, a lot of women were stay-at-home moms, and the mannerisms were very, very different. And, sometimes when, for example, if someone was misbehaving as a child and they didn't listen to the mom, the dad will be disciplinarian when he got home from work. But now that doesn't exist, because both parents are home from work, and there is going to be the burnout, the lack of attention, they have different things they have to worry about, because some of them bring their work home. And then in addition to that, they also bring, they have to do other duties to actually raise their children, like shop for things that the children needs. They need to bring food or cook food. Not everyone, actually is working because they could afford to hire a nanny. Sometimes they could barely afford to hire the nanny. They're actually just probably telling their older children to take care of them while they come back from work, because they're actually, both of them are working to make ends meet. That's how hard it is out here for some of them to pay a rent of a crappy apartment that is probably $2,000 to $3,000 for 2 bedrooms in LA. And it's a rundown building, but that is just the state of the world. And then take into consideration that they have to then get groceries for everybody, and then the cash will burn out. So sometimes these parents, when they get home, instead of spending quality time with their children, and not everyone is like this, but a lot of them are, they just are so tired. They got burnout. They come home, they get on the phone, they vent about their day, or they come home, they probably have marital problems, they're arguing, so the children are witnessing the way these parents are disrespecting, talking to each other, thinking it's okay for people to get that. And they probably one day think it's okay, and then which is kind of creates that cycle of oh, if you have daughters and the daughters are witnessing the parents fight, then they think it's okay for maybe they wonder then why men treat them like that, because they turn into their mothers too, so no. And then some people, they raise their children in a different way because they have trauma, because they're I would never raise the way you raised me. But sometimes I'm just okay, you probably needed tough love and your parents were very disciplined. So it's just different things, So with how hard, which is kind of what I said, I kind of wrote everything I just wrote, everything I wrote down, I just kind of said right now. So because of the mixed busy schedules, they naturally reduce the time available to spend with their children and allow them to practice good manners, so that leads to really bad habits. So I wrote down a couple of things about what is happening with people having bad habits. So something that happens is that, and it goes back to the example I gave you guys about what I saw at Gilson. So it's kind of we, as a society, especially the parents who are raising their children, they're enabling the bad behaviors, they're enabling the bad habits, rather than correcting it at the spot, letting them know what they were doing is wrong on the spot. If someone said something rude, instead of saying it's funny, they're no, you do not say that. Some people laugh it off. They think it's funny when they're saying a bad word. And I think it's okay if you are let's say the cousin or the brother. But if you are raising that child and that's your son, your daughter, and it's a toddler, and you caught them saying a bad word, you need to let them know that's a bad word and correct the behavior. You need to let them know that, teach them these polite phrases, when you walk in, especially when you walk in into somebody, for example, people going into people's houses as a guest. Some people don't even, and the children, they get shy. I don't even know what's wrong with them. It's what happened to people, in the lack of backbones. So I'm they completely disregard the host. They do not say hi, and they should. They should greet someone else if they're going any place you go to. You try to always say polite phrases and say hello, because you do not live there. You do not own the establishment. But even if you owned it, why wouldn't you treat your own workers that work for you with kindness and respect and good manners? So you need to teach your children, when you walk into someone's house, you greet them, you say hi, hello, good afternoon, hi, hello, good morning, how are you? And you just make small talk conversation, just act like you're from the South. I don't know, it is not that hard, but it's also if you see it in the spot, correct it. And it's that could be easy parenting rather than negating it, and it's, another thing that leads to it is the tech and social media. So with tech and social media, you get the rise of cyber bullies, and then you have people being rude and disrespectful because they're learning how to talk with such savage behavior, and you have savage words just for the sake of having some dingers and singers at the end of each argument to prove a point. They do this, some of them say it online and then they say it in person to their parents because they think it's it's okay or it's cool, but they're learning all of this online. So like obviously there's no way we could escape social media, and it's just getting worser and worser, so there's just no way you could escape technology, period. But you could rectify people's behavior. You could be like, you could not talk to someone like that ever. Like, it is just not okay. And also, like, you also have to watch what you say online, because like it will be hard for you to get a job, because people do extensive background checks on people, and sometimes like you cannot get hired in some like, you know, really really crazy companies that pay really well because they do a social media swipe. So I just want to point that out there. So also, due to like tech and social media, people are constantly looking for instant gratification. So they want things here, they want things now. They're looking for like external validation, and all of that leads to like bad manners, and then them not listening to their parents. So when the parents are not raising them, you have the rise of the iPad babies. Who is raising your child? Apple products, the iPad, their iPhone, ChatGPT. This is like ridiculous and then quite embarrassing as a human society to have tech raise your children, and then them not learning manners, not learning human kindness. They don't even know how to talk to the server correctly. They think they're rude. Like, you know, like one thing is tipping culture, but one thing is like talking to your server in good manners while you're placing an order. You know, they're talking to you with good customer service. The best thing you could do is talk to them back in a nice, kind manner. And also, who knows, they might actually give you even better service because you're actually like, you know, treating them with such like, you know, kindness and giving them like compliments. Like, and I think I saw this episode of like this show, this movie. I mean, like this show. I cannot think of the movie. I mean, like the name of the show, but it's like I'm actually thinking. Oh my god, I cannot think of the name of the show. But anyways, there was a show where it was like a couple. They're black. It's like the bald guy. He's like funny comedy show. His son is kind of like a ditzy little airhead tall guy. They have a beautiful daughter, and then you have the wife who, you know, she's really beautiful herself, and she was in Martin back in the 90s or 80s, I'm not sure. And she's the wife, so they're at the restaurant, right? And in the restaurant, like the server's like ignoring them, being a little rude, and the husband tells the wife, I'm like, well, I like, you know, you should give them compliments and just, you know, be loud and, you know, like make sure they hear you, and they'll give you even better service, and you'll be the number one table because you're just giving them positive words of affirmation. So they started like trying it out. They were like, oh my god, that guy right there is such great service. And the girl was like, oh my god, I think he could hear you. He's like, that's the point. He's like, oh my god. And she tries to herself like, oh my god, he's so handsome, he should be a model. And the guy just like was like, oh, here's the bread, here's the water, what do you need? He was so attentive, because it's like which is kind of like part of the solution that I am giving you to the whole thing about manners, is like, it's called mirror work. So what you put out there comes back in return. But before I get to the mirror work, I have three or four more bullet points about like the lack of manners and like, you know, the problems that do exist. So people who have bad manners, they lack empathy and understanding because they are no longer self-aware. They are self-centered. They also have emotional wounds. So these are people who have trauma, and because of their trauma, they struggle to express themselves with kindness because that kindness was not given to them to begin with. So they're lashing out. In addition to that, some people who also have bad manners, they learn bad manners because they have limited socialization. So they just don't go out as much. So they don't have even the experience to do that. So then these are also the parents who have very sheltered children who don't even practice manners, you know, and they just never go to the neighbors' houses for dinner or, you know, things like that. But let's say, for example, if you live in a neighborhood and it's like, you know, like prim and proper, for example, or even if you don't, if you walk down the street and you see the same people almost all the time and you know where people live, like that's your neighbor, when you walk past them, you should say hi. And if you do not feel like it because you're having a crappy day and you cannot get a hold of your emotions, where you could not control them because, like, I don't know, like if you emote words, it might sound like you're crying, or because, you know, like I'm just giving you a reason of why you wouldn't say hi. You could smile, you could nod your head, you could wave, you know, if you don't feel like talking, you know. These are just like small acts of human kindness, and that is a solution right there too. You say hi to your neighbor. It's actually in the Bible to be kind to your neighbor. Hi. I don't even know if it actually says hi to your neighbor, but I know it says be kind to him. Okay, so there is also a decline in formal instructions when it comes to etiquette, and that guy actually like was like hot and bothered in the beginning of the like the whole like episode about not having etiquette, because like I just like, I don't know, like maybe me being in a like not delulu, but it's optimism, but you know, I who doesn't want to be a princess, right? And to be princess and to be royal, you have to be prim and proper. So like you know, I think I used to play pretend with like all my, you know, friends, or like, you know, my cousins, my brothers, and used to be like, oh, so we would be like, you know, royals one day, and we'd be like playing high tea and all of these things, and we would suddenly have like etiquette and talking like horrible British accents, or when I lived in Mexico, we would talk in fake English, which was under like silly little words like like fake English, right? Just because, you know, I think we were just like, you know, like dreaming about like, oh my God, we're here, we're echelon, and we're just like, you know, like doing fancy things because, you know, why wouldn't be? We're royals here, right? Like we live in a castle. Like that was like literally like how we would display pretend. And I think it's because like maybe I have this notion of like, if I, you know, one day aspire to like be like this or live in a fairy tale, like I want to be a proper princess, or like a proper royal, a proper prince. Like and it's just like being kindness. So there is like something I learned in meditation, and I also learned this in therapy, is that the world is a mirror, and in a sense that, you know, obviously mirrors are real, but what you put out there comes back in return. So when you do the exercise of you being, you know, like in front of the mirror is not going to like, you know, smile first. You have to smile first, and the mirror will reflect that back to you, right? It's like, it's a reflection, obviously. But you could take that also as in like, oh, like this is my chance to take action. Like if you want results, you gotta do it first, because, you know, like if you move this way in front of the mirror, you have to move first, so the reflection could do what you want first, you know. So it's like you're putting that out there too. So you have to just kind of like, you know, like goes back to kindergarten, to the golden rule of respect. Treat others how you want to be treated. So I always try to act like, you know, treat people with kindness, because I don't know what type of stuff they're going through. Like sometimes like I could have a horrible day, like with things going on at home, and I know I do, but I'm still gonna try to show up to be with, like, you know, be the best version. Because like I know like where I work, people don't care about that stuff, and they're not there to hear my soapy little sad story. But in addition to that, I am gonna be kind to others, because they could be going through worse things than me. And, you know, and if I do that, it might just ripple and affect that, oh my God, like why was I being such an asshole to that person? Maybe I could just be a little bit kinder because that guy was so kind to me right now. So these are definitely things that we could all do. And obviously, I do want to say that it does start at home, and we could all just be a little bit better. I'm not saying that you have to completely change your whole routine and your whole dynamic at work, but you could slowly start teaching your kids just like better things about how to treat others with much more kindness and respect. And little things and like go a long way, especially when children are so young. Their brains are like sponges that everything is going, they're gonna learn everything, and they're gonna carry all these things when they get older, and just treat everyone even better and aspire to have even bigger and better dreams and be better individuals. And you know I think that I believe in love, and I believe in the kindness of others, and I believe in, the teachings of love and kindness for everybody. And I think things like this do start at home, and sometimes you do see a lot of broken children who have like really horrible, places they get, raised up on. But even then they power through the resilience and become even better. And then some don't, some lash out through their trauma. So like, remember that some of these wounds are mental, and people like children will never forget these things. So just like remember of the little ones you're raising at home, what type of human they're going to show up as when they get older. Who do you want them to be? And also do that yourself, especially if they're witnessing you, because they think if that could do it, then I could do it. I want to be just like that. Remember, for their children, for a lot of them, you are their hero, and they aspire to you. They look up to you. You are older than them, and you came out of them, or like they came out of you, I mean, and they're a part of you, so they raised you. So like, you're raising them, you guys are raising each other, you guys are becoming better humans as you raise the little bundles of joy that you created onto the world. So why not, make those bundles of joy be the bundles of joy. So with that, I do have a poem that I do want to read to you, because we're gonna like, just wrap things up. And I do have more examples about mirror work, but I do want to like, touch that on another episode, about like another topic. I just don't want to give nothing away right now, because I'm still like brainstorming. Like I said, I have so many ideas that I'm trying not to get the burnout, and I'm not trying not to get like so overwhelmed with a lot of like, I think like the mental crash that I sometimes get. I realize that the brain is it's an organ, it's a muscle, and like, who knows, like, am I ever putting it to rest, right? So I need to work on that. So I also like need to, obviously wrap it up so I can like get some rest myself. But I do appreciate you guys for like actually staying into the end of the message, and I hope that you guys learned something. And also like, even if you didn't learn something, at least now you're aware that obviously like, yes, we could be a little bit kinder. And how many videos do you not see on social media of people just blatantly being rude and like just like uploading it like if it's like a laughing stock? Like, no, I do not want to be part of that world, and you shouldn't either. So I do have a poem for me to read to you, and it's a good one. I do love it so much. Okay, so this is called The Guest House by Rumi, translated by Reynold A. Nicholson. In this poem, it almost sounds as if the 13th century Persian poet Rumi is telling his readers to embrace dark thoughts, shame, and malice. But what he's really saying is to invite them in. Don't ignore your feelings. They must be of some higher significance. That is like something that the translator like wrote or whatever towards the poem. But to me, that is not what I got from the poem at all. I don't even know why I read that snippet, but it was just there. I was like, I sometimes like to read it, and I made the mistake of reading it out loud, but I also don't want to have like a moment of silence when I read that like in my head first. But I read this poem before, but not on this book. But to me, this poem is like more of a really big lesson about human kindness and just the way we show up in the world. So here we go. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Okay, so this poem ties a little bit to what I said in the last episode about the way you flip the script, right? Meaning that if it's not a lesson, it's a blessing. And then sometimes the blessing is within the lesson. It's both. So when you have that perception in life and you still show up in kindness, because when you are in that path, you're channeling in that frequency because you're choosing to walk in that path of gratitude. You realize that, you know what, these people are horrible. And it's okay. Like, they're saying that they're going to empty its furniture. They're going to be like, you're still going to treat them as honorable guests. And I just love how it's saying it's coming as a lesson from, from the beyond, from a guy from beyond. Like, it was sent for you to learn the lesson. So still treat people with kindness, like treat them like a guest house. So this just reminds me of people having manners, showing up as the best selves, and also like seeing life and witnessing other individuals that come through your path and come through your life, and people that you have a conversation with. Like, listen to them with empathy and an open heart and allow them to be heard. They probably need to get something off their chest. And also, like, if you want to give them a message, like, it's fine, like, give it to them, but still treat them like they are a special person, because that could also, it's given back in return to you as well. And also, like, if they were mean to you, it's the lesson too. You could learn so much from people being mean and like behaving in such malice behaviors. So this literally is a really good poem that I love. And it just like reminds me of, teaching each human or any individual that I cross paths with, like they are a guest in my own home. And, I'm having a party and I just want them to have fun. And then sometimes when you have party, people get drunk, people, break the furniture in your house by accident, and it's okay because, you are, you're hosting, and, they're your guest, and, you want them to feel comfortable and welcomed. And if, and if the world is a mirror, what you put out there is gonna reflect back. So with that being said, be kind to others, but most importantly, be kind to yourself, because it's gonna reflect back to you. Thank you so much for joining me again in this episode. I appreciate you, love you. Thank you for the support. Visit me again next week. I am gonna be doing weekly drops, and stay tuned for other things that I have, going on in my little brain of mine. Wasn't even little, but I don't know. Maybe as the episodes progress, I'm gonna have my frontal lobe just growing. But thank you so much for listening to me. And who knows? Maybe next time I film, it might be another longer episode. I'm gonna just get a little bit more personal and vulnerable. I know this time it was more of a unload and an unpack on like manners, and I really do hope that you do that, and you do act kinder to other people, and it's just not so hard to do. It really is not. And if it is, you have to ask yourself, why is it so hard for me to be nice to others? You know, it's okay to admit that you are wrong and that you need help. And, you know, the world is your oyster. All you have to do is be kind and be happy. Okay, so love you guys. Till next time. Bye.